1951, Oliver Brown went on to file a class action lawsuit against the Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas, for denying his daughter entry into what was at the time an all-white school. Oliver Brown went on to argue that this was a direct violation of the 14th Amendment.
Hey, what is the 14th Amendment?
I'm glad you asked. The 14th Amendment is the equality clause that protects everybody within all laws. A very big important aspect of the Brown v. Board case was that it referenced experiments done in the 1940s. And in the 40s, there was a series of experiments conducted by Kenneth Clark and Mamie Phipps Clark. And their experiments were that they would bring in white kids and black kids in a room, and in that room there was a white doll and a black doll on top of a desk. And they would have the kids choose what they thought was the good doll and what doll they thought was the bad doll. Overwhelmingly, all the kids chose the white doll as being the good doll and the black doll being the bad doll. Oliver Brown went on to use this in his argument against the board that this was clear evidence that segregation has a profound effect on young kids. Even though those kids don't know what racism is, they still know what it feels like to be different because of color of their skin. And most of these kids grow up to not even know that they were affected. Even though the Supreme Court's choice in Brown v. Board, it didn't achieve schools desegregation as it tried to go and set out to do. On its own, the ruling and the steadfast resistance across the southern states, they actually ended up fueling the civil rights movement. In 1955, after Brown v. Board's education choice, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a Montgomery bus. And her arrest sparked the Montgomery bus boycotts, and it would lead to other boycotts and sit-ins and demonstrations. And many of them were actually led by Martin Luther King Jr. And that would eventually lead to the toppling of the Jim Crow laws. So open and blatant discrimination was very common to encounter in certain parts of the country 40 years ago. And in a lot of areas, it still holds true today that the effect of segregation has its hold on people's minds to this day. So is there a way to fix the mind after it's been affected? The lowering of self-worth is a way to make a community not reach its true potential. When a young person loses their confidence, it might never fully recover. And that's a powerful wound to inflict on somebody early on in their life. You can always prevent this by including all races together, so excluding can obviously have some effects. So most of the black students preferred the white doll with blonde hair, assigning positive traits to it. Meanwhile, discarding the brown doll with black hair because putting negative traits to it. The Clarks concluded that the black children formed a racial identity by the age of 3 and attached negative traits to their own identity, which were perpetuated by segregation and prejudice. So segregation isn't a thing anymore, but we can still feel different from each other.